What if the trees held the secrets to healing, connection, and self expression? Breathe deep and step into a soulful journey of yoga, nature, and holistic hair braiding with Tatum Russell. Welcome back to Wandering Past Limits. Today, I am excited to introduce you to Tatum Russell, a multi-passionate soul who wears many hats. She's a talented hairstylist, a deeply grounded yoga instructor, and someone whose wisdom around healing truly resonates on a cellular level. Whether you're on your own healing journey, curious about yoga beyond the physical poses, or just looking for grounded, soul-nourishing conversation, this episode's for you. Let's dive into it. We are talking with Tatum about holistic hair and how trees help relate to the human experience and how yoga has helped her in healing with trauma. So I'm going to go ahead and let you give us an introduction on you, where you're at, because I believe you live in a van, which is, I think, so cool. So go ahead and tell us more about you and what you do and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so my name is Tatum. I go by my middle name, and I was a licensed cosmetologist behind the chair for almost 10-ish years. And about 3 years ago, I made a really big life-changing decision to remove alcohol and synthetic substances from my experience. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood and found ways to navigate and cope. And so, 3 years ago, I made those decisions. Yoga found its way into my life, and it's just been a slow progress towards where I'm at now. So around a year ago, I decided to step out from behind the chair and started taking those steps. And yoga has completely cracked me open. It showed me that I had trauma to even look at. It showed me how to even start to begin to look at it. And now I'm kind of in the process with yoga. I was so angry at it, like religion. I don't know if anybody has ever connected with religion. We experience bad things. We get really angry with God. I got so angry with yoga. And so now I'm kind of re-healing that connection to it and using it in ways to enable my healing, I guess you could say. 6 months ago, I made the decision to put all my things in storage, and a really good friend of mine and I decided to go off into the world together and see what we could come up with. And so I am currently at Firefly Hills in Beattyville, Kentucky. It is an RV campground and communal inclusive living space. So fresh gardens, fires, all the nice things. Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about yoga other than going into the studio and doing a sun salutation or, just some of those hot yoga type things. And you said
Right.
that for you is more of like a religious experience. Could you explain this more to me and the audience was how? Because I think a lot of us see this as just a workout.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I was drawn to yoga similar, for a workout. I was working full time and had a girlfriend, and we were looking for ways to connect, but also kind of like keep a healthy body. And so yoga is definitely, yoga came to the Western world because of an outer experience. And so whenever I started going to yoga classes, you hear them talk about the mind, body, spirit, and it's always so calm and zen and all these things. And I think for me, yoga kind of became a religious or spiritual experience when I realized for the first time in my life, I was having the space and safety to explore my own internal world. And when I started to explore my internal world, I realized that my biggest calling was to a god or to divinity or to the universe or whatever deity you believe. And through that space and starting to explore my internal world, I started to realize the traumas that I experienced, assess them, and now I get to live in communion with the outside world. And to me, that is a gift that only God could give. So it feels very spiritual to me because I feel like it gave me my life back. And I can't write that off to just be something that came from somewhere else in the world. I have to write that off to be something bigger. And yoga in other parts of the world, I mean, it is considered a religious and spiritual practice. And I feel it's important to say that and bring that in and remember that and just talk about some cultural appropriation a little bit because I am a Western white woman and I am talking and sharing things about a history and a lineage that is not mine. And so I'm just thankful that I get to learn and enter into that spiritual realm with those who have been practicing and know much, much more than me.
You're a former hairdresser, and you've
Yes.
brought yoga and hair and combined them into a whole new experience that I've never heard of. So I'd love to hear more about your holistic hair and the mantra hair braiding.
Being behind the chair for 10 years and experiencing trauma, I was diagnosed with autoimmune diseases at a young age. And I started to realize that the products were making me really sick. And that was so much grief for me to experience because it really made me realize I was going to have to give up this thing that I was so passionate about. It's hair for me was an expression of creativity, a way to connect with people, a way to heal my own self, influence those around me. And so to kind of come to terms with I wasn't going to get to do that anymore because of the products was really hard. I had been in my yoga practice for a couple years and I have very fine, thin hair and was braiding my hair every night as a protective style. Through yoga, I started hearing about mantras and chanting. And so there's a lot of beliefs around chanting and mantras. Mantras are basically just a rhythmic pattern of words that you are verbalizing to channel an energy or a feeling or to create a focus in the mind. And so I have ADHD. I'm very, yeah, we both. Grounding practices are very good for me. And I started to realize that me braiding my hair every night was this really grounding practice. And it rooted me in being able to, again, create that space for myself to feel into my internal world, feel into the external world. And so when you're taking time for yourself, you're listening to music. I was listening to chants and I was just like sitting there chanting. And then I was like, wait, I'm having this whole experience right now. Like I would start to go into like these meditative states and feel these sensations and hear these memories and awarenesses coming into my mind. And so after sitting with that for about 6 months, I kind of got the call of like, I want to share this with other people. I miss that connection to people. And I never got that feminine healing as a child. So I wanted to create a feminine circle that we could bring this in and put that energy out into the world. So that's kind of how the yoga and the hair weaved together, you could say. But there are multiple conscious festivals in the area that I facilitate at. I'm always looking for different studios or different community spaces that are open to hosting this kind of offering.
With your holistic healing, you relate that experience with the trees. I'd like to hear more about that too.
So in yoga, we have something called the 8 limbs, and it's kind of like a breakdown of the deeper realms that you can navigate within the whole of yoga. So I was in Aspen, Colorado a while ago, and I was hiking and looking at all these beautiful yellow leaves. And somewhere on a sign, I read and it broke down that the aspen tree itself is actually not multiple trees spread out over a mass area. It is one tree that is rooting and spreading across the land. And so that really baffled me because I was going through my first yoga teacher training at the time and was having such a hard time with like, you have yoga, you have ahisma, you have brahmacharya, you have tantra. Like, how in the world am I ever going to put all these things in places? And the aspen trees gave me the connection of sometimes we don't have to put everything in a place. We just have to realize it all comes from one system. And over here, you might have some branches, and over here, you might have some leaves. But in turn, it really all comes back to the trunk, the root, to the earth. Um, and so that's where the little diagram comes in because I'm a very visual learner. And so I was able to put, the 8 limbs of yoga are the leaves of the whole. Then you have the branches that are the deeper understandings of those branches. And then the tree, which is the trunk, and that's life and connecting it back to us, which is the earth. Just a fun little meditative practice with watercolors. Right now, I'm really making a connection with trees through my lived experience. I very much see myself as water right now, and my community around me are kind of the trees. And I'm running and flooding and drying up and secreting over here and just creating waves, if you will. And the community around me is kind of like the root system or the native grasses, and it's like holding all this water on the surface of the earth so I don't just slip off into the abyss.
I love that. And I love all this visualization. It really just helps hone that in and just, I'm a visual learner too. So I love being able to just picture everything that you're saying. Like my experience with yoga is mostly hot yoga and, go into downward dog and then do this and then like go into some pose that I can't get into because I'm not that flexible. So that's like my experience. And the fact that you've had such a just life altering experience because you said it helped you heal with trauma. And I'm like, this is causing me trauma because I can't bend in this position.
I'm so thankful you brought that up. One of the main things in trauma informed yoga is to bring awareness to that. Because, yeah, we sometimes re traumatize ourselves trying to like meet a goal or reach an end desire. And I did the same thing when I first started in my yoga journey. The first 2 years I was practicing yoga, I was re traumatizing my body because I was listening to the narratives of you're not good enough, that inner critic, from childhood trauma, comparing myself to everyone in the class, listening to my teacher and thinking, well, what's wrong with my body? He's telling me to do this one thing, but it's not doing it. And so trauma informed yoga is very much based in honoring your body, listening to your body, kind of creating that somatic awareness around what it can sound like to hear your body. I remember the first time I ever heard my body, it was screaming and I had no idea. And then I started talking about it, and some people in my life were like, what's it like to hear your body? I don't know how to do that. So yeah, trauma informed classes, if you are somebody who is feeling kind of like what we're describing right now of like looking around and seek out trauma informed classes and really find someone that can nurture and hold that space for you to explore. One of the things I noticed when I first started practicing too was the speed of classes. We're up, we're down, we're here, we're next. And now we're in Shavasana and the class is over. And all right, guys, we'll see you next week. Yin yoga or developing my own personal daily practice, I was able to slow down and start to melt into some of those poses. And that's when I started to feel, okay, maybe it's not, there's something wrong with me. Maybe it's because my body's asking for some more tenderness here. or my body's asking for some more hydration here. Trauma, it lives in our bodies. And unfortunately, we live in a world that asks us to detach from our bodies to keep up. And so it's this endless back and forth pull and cycle.
And you're absolutely right. The world today is just run, 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 run. Go here, do this, do that. And that's what you see in this yoga practice. Like you said, it's do all these poses, do them quickly. You don't really get to sit and focus. So I'm curious exactly what is a yoga practice for Tatum? What do you do in your yoga practice?
So like nature, it's always changing. It's changing with seasons, it's changing with my needs, it's changing with just what's going on in my reality. So right now, my practice is very independent. I used to have a lot of props. I used to have a lot of music or crystals and like all these things around. And being in the van and in that phase of life right now, my practice is very much just my body and wherever I find myself. So sometimes it's, stopping in between here and the bathhouse to take a couple minutes to breathe and just feel into a Dirga Pranayama breath and feel the sun on my skin. Some mornings, it looks like I can roll my yoga mat out and get 30, 45 minutes in with a little cup of cacao. And I'm doing, 30 minutes of movement and then 10, 15 minutes of just closed eye meditation. I've had to learn with my yoga practice that when I become really rigid and hoping and expecting it to look a certain way, I am depleting myself of the gift I deserve and not allowing myself to take that space. So sometimes you just got to get messy with it and you just got to give yourself what you deserve, even if it doesn't look the way you think it should.
I love this. Because that's, going into a class, that's how it feels. It's like you immediately look at the person next to you and you're like, well, I'm not doing that. I can't get into this. And some of the things that they have you do, even as a beginner, it's more intimidating, I think. And I don't feel like that's what yoga is about. I don't believe that the purpose of it is to be intimidated by it. So this is great hearing that, oh, maybe I need to go to a different class.
I just want to say again, like, I'm so thankful to hear you communicate this because I've completed 2 yoga teacher trainings and I teach to like friends and family here and there, but I actually am currently not teaching in an active studio anywhere. I'm not teaching a weekly class. I'm not offering that type of experience because I'm having a really hard time finding a reality that will allow me to offer it the way that I've been able to experience it. Because I've had the experience that I've had with it, to make sure that if I hold that space, I can create a container as authentic to what I hope to create as possible. Because I don't want to walk into a studio and have to meet these time standards or have to meet these dress codes or have to meet, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to have an experience, not meet a
Right.
standard.
Because that doesn't sound fair for the people who are trying to get that experience. They want to go into, and that's for me. So my background is aerial arts, and I really like doing aerial silks is my bread and butter. And I love strength moves and I love being powerful. But then I'll go into the yoga studio working on flexibility, and that's not my wheelhouse. But then I also can't do any of the other things either. So it's the traumatic portion that you're talking about. It's not that experience of Zen or being calm. It's frustration at I can't do these things that I want to do. And
Really.
being ADHD, I want to do them now, not yesterday. Like I got to do this now. I'm not going to wait until tomorrow or 5 days. I got to do it now. Being able to actually have a Zen yoga where you can calm the thoughts, those racing thoughts down would be a huge experience, especially for people with ADHD.
I love RVers and I love people who are out there traveling and defying the odds of what society standards tell us to do. And so I'm hopeful that some of those offerings that I create will target more of an audience like us.
Community, van life community, we are a different breed. And we are all here to help each other and to grow. And I think that a lot of us are aiming for that holistic, new age, get out in the trees lifestyle. And we're all getting tired of the hustle and the bustle and the run. And it is all traumatic. It is all hurtful. Like, I have been stationary recently for almost 2 months now, and I'm feeling all of that just run, and it's gotten to a fight or flight mode, and I just want to go back into the trees and back into the calm. I miss that. And I think more people are starting to get to that point too.
On like nature, we go back into society, we get all up in the hustle and bustle, we want to retreat back to nature,
Mhm.
similar to yoga. We get into this practice, we start to see the benefits. Those benefits allow us to get into our lived experience. We get caught up in our lived experience, we remember, and we go back to what grounds us. So
I love that.
beautiful connections.
Yes.
I'll share a story that was shared with me after a ceremony one day, and that was a woman came to share with me that she was unaware of the trauma that she experienced as a child when her mother would care for her hair. With the tugging and the ripping and the pulling and the sit still and the just yeah, we sometimes don't always realize the moments that we experienced actually were traumatic.
Yeah.
And abrasive to our nervous system or to our inner child or to our actual child. To close, I'll read a little snippet that kind of relates to what we were talking about. So this is from Robin Wall Kimmerer. She is a Powhatan native and a botanist. She is the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, and she says, trees act not as individuals, but somehow as a collective. Exactly how they do this, we don't yet know. But what we see is the power of unity. What happens to one happens to all. We can starve together or feast together. We are showered every day with gifts, but they are not meant for us to keep. Their life is in their movement, the inhale and the exhale of our shared breath. Our work and our joy is to pass along the gift and to trust that what we put into the universe will always come back to us.
Love that so much. Thank you so much, Tatum, for sharing with us. I absolutely appreciate having you on my channel and giving us all this wonderful information and how yoga and getting back to nature is so important and helping us to heal from everyday life and past traumas. This was great. Thank you so much. And if you guys would like to learn more from Tatum, check her out on Instagram at Hooping Hair Yogi, and the links will be in the bio.
Thank you so much, Kayla. The light and love in me sees the light and love in you.